with weights throughout college and beginning to love it. And this was about probably 2010, 2011. So it was really when it was just really starting to become acceptable for women to have muscle. I think this was around the time where Dana Lynn Bailey was starting to get bigger as well. And she was catching a lot of heat for the size and just conditioning that she had usually in general. But it was still very much at my school. You'd see a lot of the girls go upstairs. They would be on the cardio equipment and just kind of the smaller aerobics weights. And I was always downstairs with the fraternity guys or my buddies in the ROTC program lifting and didn't really think anything of it. And I had a kinesiology instructor that came up to me one day and asked me if I'd ever really heard of or thought about bodybuilding. And at that point, my answer was no. I'd heard of it. My best friend growing up, her dad was super into it, but it wasn't really something that I had researched. And so he had asked me if he connected me with an alumni that was competing, if it would be something I was interested in. And so I said yes, connected with her, started in bikini and fitness, actually, when bikini was brand new. After college, I went into aviation in the Army for a while. So I didn't really have a ton of time, nor really the maturity to be disciplined and consistent enough on top of everything else. So it went kind of to the wayside. And then 2019, I was really starting to miss it. I was ready to get back into it. So I came back into bodybuilding in 2019 as a figure competitor. Did that until 2021. And then that was when I decided to switch to women's physique. And that's where I am. That's where I plan to stay. It's the division that I absolutely love.
Well, I understand that because I think everybody finds that division that works for them. A lot of competitors get into the bodybuilding, either if you do bikini, which is very popular, division, especially if you want to start out. Then the figure, because those ladies still have those good aesthetics. Like if you go back, throwback female bodybuilders. When bodybuilding started out, it was almost like figure. The ladies used to wear high heels and stuff, but then it changed over. The evolution of the sport has changed over years. Being in college, I know a lot of people think it. This is the mindset of other people. Especially just for women. If I lift like 5 pounds, I'm gonna look like Ronnie Coleman. No, because one thing is you have to say there's a lot more to it, just lifting weights.
Yeah, and I even deal with that now. I did quite a few years after I got out. Like the first several years I was out of the military, I worked as a personal trainer, and even now I have friends that are wanting to lose weight, but once you really get to talking to them, they really just want to recomp. They still use the word tone. Like a lot of women like to use the word tone, which really all that is gaining some muscle and losing some body fat. And I run into the same thing even still. Like they're afraid that if they lift that they're going to get huge. And I just tell them, I said, I wish it was that easy. So there's a lot more that goes into it. There's a lot of consistent nutrition. You have to eat enough to actually be able to grow. If you don't do that, you're not going to be able to gain tons of muscle anyway. It's actually a lot of hard work for women to put a really good amount of muscle tissue on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so much that's involved in it. Like one thing is the consistency, the diet, the training, and this is always the mindset of everybody. Everybody talk about, growth hormones and steroids, but that's the small factor of it. Because I know people who told me who are pros and who are competitors say, like, George, if people take what I take and they don't follow the same regimen and plan that I do, they're not going to look like me. That's the truth of it. We got here, someone's pop in. We have a man, Geo James. He says, love the channel. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So, what was that first experience like on stage for yourself? Your first time competing.
Oh man, it was interesting. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I was in bikini at that point. I'm not really a bikini girl. I don't really have the personality, the stage personality of a lot of bikini girls. Still don't to this day. But I did have fun. I remember being on stage and, it was like a little bit of a moment where I was doing something that was kind of outside of my comfort zone, but I did have a lot of fun. Like that was one of the things that I loved most about being on stage.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's experience. We get out there and you are presenting your body to other people and being judged on your style, how you move, how how you build your body. There's so much involved to it, especially critiques. And bikini, well, no offense to the division, it don't really get to me. So I think since doing the content, I might have interviewed at least three ladies who are bikini pros, and the rest were like amateurs. But generally, most of my stuff is about the women's, like women's bodybuilding, physique. I, really have good my ladies in physique. I talk to. I've even talked to some ladies in figure. I mean, really giving those recognition, those divisions that really represent what is female bodybuilding.
Yeah, and I mean every single division requires work. Like you're not going to go on stage looking like that, especially like at the pro level or the national amateur level. You're not going to go up there looking the way that you do if you're bringing a really good stage physique without a lot of hard work. And that's regardless across the divisions, whether you're bikini all the way up to bodybuilding. I think what I love most though with bodybuilding is, for me, especially when I look back at like the 80s and 90s, the crucial piece that it seems like it's gotten forgotten. It's coming back, but posing was such a huge part of it. And so a lot of people, they see the physique and then they think that's just the bodybuilding, but people forget every sport has a skill, and our skill set in bodybuilding is actually the posing. It's You're creating your body, which becomes the tool that you can present, but it's the skill of posing that makes bodybuilding what it is.
Yeah, because there's some great poses like we talking. Where I got into because she posted this video of Diane Dennis. If you remember Diane Dennis, she was very popular in good part of the 80s and 90s, multiple time Olympic competitor, mother of four kids. Beautiful eyes. She has striking eyes. She reminds me of actively Mae Foster. Um, People like one lady I think I know of, Yolanda Hughes, or lady I was watching your interview with Ryan Johnson from Dina Spot. You mentioned Janine Lukowski. Janine's a friend of mine, and we know each other for a good while. She's a great poser. Sheeta Balek, Christina Mendoza. I mean, there's so many people I know. Just amazing women who have just skill sets. And you go back to the classes like Tony Peterson, who was well known. He was one of the top, you know, peers, male bodybuilders, but also he was a pretty good poster back in the day.
Yeah, and when you talk about Janine, it's pretty funny. When 2021, I was getting ready to compete. I was, I think, 6 weeks out of a national show, but I went and worked at the Tampa Pro for a suit sponsor that I had, and I actually met Janine. And I had a couple people, just because of the way that I trained and my mentality toward it, that would tell me that I would be a lot better suited for women's physique. And I didn't really see it yet because, on the one hand, like that division, it was even then was growing pretty big, and I didn't know if I could get that much size without taking steps that I just really wasn't willing to. But also at that point, I couldn't actually, believe it or not, see myself posing on stage, because at that point, like I hadn't really studied or really looked into the 80s and 90s like golden era of posing. Like I hadn't been exposed to that stuff yet. So a lot of what my experience was based off of was things that I'd seen on stage at that point, and it seemed kind of like goofy and whatnot. And Janine was performing on stage, and the first time I saw her perform was the first time I was like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be. I remember she did this routine, and I had goosebumps by the end of it, and I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, that if I could go up on stage and do that and make people feel that way, then yeah, I would absolutely love this division.
I remember one year she won Best Poser at a show, and I remember also I went to my first bodybuilding show. That was Savannah Pro, and that's the year when she competed. She did. I think she came back after doing with a surgery because of her with her shoulder, and she won Best Poser because I remember one guy who I'm a fan of who said women's bodybuilder, yo Jake, I want that money. I want that gun. That's Jake Wood. I'm sorry to I say his name. I don't know a lot of guys named Jake, so I got to do it. So he gave her a nice envelope. I could see the money in it because hey, she may good took a chance from that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually got the chance to talk to her after. So she was also sponsored or getting ready to shortly be sponsored by my suit sponsor at that point. And I remember talking to her after the show, and she was asking me what division I was in, and she was thinking WPD, and I told her figure, and then she even was like, "You need to come to WPD. Like I think you would fit in over here." Um, so it's funny when you bring her up, and I think back on that because it was literally a time at that point. As much as I'm into posing now, I couldn't have even fathomed it until I met her.
Hmm. See, with figure and figure, physique, and fitness, and you the posing is just different compared to like the others. Like with with bikini wellness, you just got to turn around, move back and forth, and stick out your butt. With figure, you have just a quarter turns. Physique, you have few less poses compared to where it's bodybuilding. But here's the one thing between those two divisions: you don't have to wear the high heels anymore. You just kick those poppers off there. I know quite a few ladies told me that they were happy to leave physique and leave those high heels behind because I heard so many stories about that.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I remember walking in the heels because the only time I would ever wear them would be when I was practicing posing for shows. Because I'm a complete Chucks, Vans wearing kind of girl, same type of shoes I wore in high school. I still wear at 33. So I remember walking out of nationals because I also used to have a lot more face piercings and stuff. I have half of my head's usually shaved, like it's grown out a little bit, but it's due to be cut. But I remember going up for figure, and it's like I put all this work in, and I remember having to take out my piercings, having to change how the part in my hair was, and everything else, just because the look that I had was pretty much too edgy for that division. But the problem was is that look was me, and so it was like one, I go up here and I do these 4/4 turns, so I worked hard. I don't really have that much stage time, and then now I'm going up here and I'm completely changing my appearance from what my day to day is to something that just really isn't true to me. And then you add the heels on top of it. So I remember walking out of nationals, and I told my coach that, the next time I step on stage, I'm going to step on stage. I'm going to step on stage exactly as who I am. And like, if they don't like it, that's their problem. But I'm like, I'm not going to change myself for the stage ever again. I'm not doing it anymore. Um, so it was a very good day. I took my heels, I threw them in the trash. It was a extremely therapeutic moment.
it goes back to like one of my favorite comedians. That's Bernie Mac says, people don't like who you are. Fuck. That's it. With crazy gears and lips and handcuffs on the hands. That's what you got to do. You got to live for you. But like I said, you got to remember this is a sport with a lot of judging. They critique you. I know one thing is like you have tattoos, and I talked to one lady who she has a lot of tattoos, and that sometimes can be an issue sometimes with the judges because you can't see the detail of the muscles depending on where you get them at. Like if it's anything like a big back tattoo, it covers your back, as quite a few competitors, how they place or how they do well at a show is by the condition of the back, especially in figure, because you have to have those crap shoulders, the broad shoulders, you have that nice back, have that, I Willie told me, that upside down Dorito look.
Yep. Yep. Um, and yeah, that's actually it's one part of the reason. So like I have some tattoos. I have a half sleeve from basically my forearm up to my elbow on one arm. And then I have a few other tattoos, but they're all either on like the rib cage or the wrist or something that doesn't really obstruct my body. And um, partly just because as long as I keep competing, I don't want to get anything anywhere that could cover up any detail. Um, the other part of it too is I'm very big with tattoos of just not getting them just for the sake of getting them. Like if I get a tattoo, I've usually thought about it for a while. I've got a story behind it. Um, but yeah, it can. I think it can definitely. Some people say like you don't get downgraded for it, but it can definitely be distracting.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not personally a big fan of them. Yeah, I know a lot of competitors get them because it's very popular. It's the thing. Now I got enough scars in my body. I don't need no tattoos. So, folks, what we're going to do while we have Robbi here, we're going to jump into her social media for a bit. If you want to follow her, her links are in the description of this live stream. Check her out, support her. Show interest. This lady has some good amount of knowledge, especially about posing, a little bit about history. But guys, And Robbi, I don't do this. I do this as a disclaimer to guys out there. Guys, no D pics. Stop it. Get some help. What are you?